Okay, so I'm going to explain what happened in the Snow White 2025 version, but I need a little bit of context, or to give you a little bit of context before I get into the plot. So first of all, it was originally going to come out in 2024, and I think they were going to use actors with dwarfism to play the 7 dwarfs, but then Peter Dinklage made a whole stink about that, and so Disney scrapped that idea, and instead decided to go with the 7 diverse people of the forest, except they didn't call it that. But between that and people giving pushback for not hiring or not having the 7 dwarfs in there, and then there was controversy with Rachel Zegler and what she was saying, and people were criticizing it before it even came out, saying that it was going to be too woke. So Disney said it's going to be pushed back to 2025, and there were going to be reshoots. And so I think that's why there's this weird mashup, because they have the original thing that they did with the 7 diverse people in the forest, however, whatever plan that was going to be, mixed in with the CGI 7 dwarfs that they have. And so I think that's all the context I need to give you for the plot. But anyway, I went to see this with my mother and with 2 friends, and my mom and I were going in there very pessimistic. We had heard about a lot of the controversy, and we were basically planning to watch a train wreck. Now my 2 friends, on the other hand, they went in very optimistic, and they were excited to see it, and they thought they were going to like it. So we got a wide range of people here. Now, for my mom and I, we thought it was just kind of boring. It wasn't a train wreck, which maybe would have been a little more entertaining. It was just blah. And my 2 friends, they liked it. They went in thinking they would like it, and I thought they might too, and they did like it. They noticed that there were some things that maybe they didn't care for, or some things that didn't make sense. And then I asked them if would they be willing to see it if they had to pay for the ticket, because they didn't have to pay for the ticket. My one friend said that she would not have been willing to pay for a ticket to see it in theaters, but the other one said that she would. So take that what you will. Before I get into any spoilers, I'm just going to say some very broad things. First of all, we didn't care for the costumes very much, with some exceptions. We liked the songs, and we all wished that they had used real actors instead of CGI dwarfs. I don't know that there's too much else I can get into without spoilers. It wasn't woke, or as woke as it was supposed to be, I think, originally. With everything that Rachel Zegler had been saying, it seemed like they were going to go in a different direction, but then with the bad reviews that they got, or the bad feedback that they got before it even came out, they decided to switch tracks, but they didn't exactly switch tracks, because it's kind of like they cut and pasted different things together, so some things didn't really make a lot of sense. So basically, yeah, it was just kind of boring, just okay. But I really want to talk about everything that happened, so the plot opens up. It's a storybook, and the narrator says there was a kind queen and king, and they had a daughter, and the daughter was born in a snowstorm, and so they decided to name her Snow White, because she was born in a snowstorm. That's how they decided to explain why her skin was not white as snow. And everyone's happy in the village and all. It's a prosperous kingdom. They make apple pies or whatever for the villagers. And then the queen dies. And then the king meets the evil queen, Gadot. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And she looks very beautiful. When we first see her, she has her hair down. The rest of the movie, it's kind of up in like that swim cap type of thing, which isn't as nice. And she has a little bit of magic. She can do a sort of party trick stuff where she has a rose, and it's a red rose, and she changes it into a white rose, and that's basically, I think, the extent of her power. We don't see her do a lot of other things. But anyway, apparently the evil queen tells the king that, hey, there's some trouble up north or wherever, go check it out. So the king goes to check it out, and then he never returns. And so the evil queen is ruling, and everything just turns to poverty. Everything becomes bad. I think she's greedy and doesn't share anything. And she has Snow White's hair cut off so that it's really short. And Snow White is basically working as a servant. So for the opening sequence, it wasn't too bad. I kind of liked it. Oh, they did have a song, Where the Good Things Grow. That was a good song. My mom noticed that a lot of the songs sounded like similar to The Greatest Showman, and that's because the songwriters for The Greatest Showman also wrote new songs for Snow White. Anyway, now we get to Rachel Zegler, Snow White. And she meets this guy. She's working in the castle, and she meets this bandit who is stealing potatoes. And this is the love interest. His name is Jonathan. He's not a prince. When I'm talking about this, I may accidentally refer to him as a prince, but he's not. And my apologies in advance, because he makes it clear later on that he's not a prince and he's not a knight in shining armor. He's stealing potatoes. Snow White doesn't rat him out. She just kind of lets him go. And then Snow White goes to talk to the queen and says that maybe you should share. But the queen doesn't really want to share, and she goes into the speech about people want a strong leader, and she does her party trick again where she gets a rose and it turns black and it crumbles. And then the bandit, he actually gets caught. He's not a very good bandit. He gets caught multiple times. And so the queen asks, "Oh, are you one of the bandits that's fighting in the king's name?" And he says, "No, I'm not one of the bandits. I'm the leader of the bandits." And I don't know if he's a good leader either, because he does order some bandits around a little bit, I think, but I don't know if he shows any leadership skills. But anyway, he's probably a poor leader. At least he's a very poor bandit, because he keeps getting caught and then he can't escape very well. So Snow White asks the queen to please show him some kindness, because everyone needs a little bit of kindness. And the queen, she was going to throw him in the dungeon, but then she says, "You know what? I'm going to tie him to the front gate, and he's going to freeze to death." And, well, you'll see in a minute. This is supposed to be like a really scary thing, but it's not. So then Snow White sings another song, Waiting on a Wish, which is a pretty good song, but my mom had 2 nitpicks about it. One was the camera angles she didn't like. She said it made Rachel Zegler's mouth look kind of big. And the other one, she was wondering why Snow White was mopping a dry floor with a dry mop. But anyway, after this song, Snow White goes and she sets the bandit boy free, which is really easy. First of all, it doesn't even seem that cold out, so I don't know if he would freeze to death. He would probably starve to death before he froze to death. And he's just tied to the gate with a single thick rope that he probably should be able to undo himself if he's an actual good bandit. There are no guards guarding him, and the gate, the inside of it is the palace, and outside is the villagers, so anyone could just walk by and free him if they wanted to. I don't understand. So Bandit Boy goes free. The evil queen at that point asks the magic mirror who's the fairest of them all, and the magic mirror says Snow White. And anyone with eyes can see that's not true. Rachel Zegler is very pretty, but very few people are as beautiful as Gal Gadot. And this movie did Rachel Zegler no favors. The short haircut, it really does look like Lord Farquaad. They should have given it some volume or some curl or something, or if they couldn't make it look good, just keep it long. It doesn't look good the way they styled it. And the costumes don't really flatter her either. But the magic mirror says it's Snow White. And so the evil queen gets jealous and tells the huntsman to take Snow White apple picking and then kill her. Of course, the huntsman, he goes to do it, but then he can't do it. He tells Snow White to run away, but before she runs away, he tells her not to trust the queen because she lies and you don't know what happened with your father. And Snow White's like, "Oh, what happened with my father?" And then, of course, the huntsman's like, Go, before I change my mind." So you might be thinking, oh, well, in the opening, it said that the father never returned. It didn't say that he died. So are they going to do something with it? Don't get your hopes up. Snow White, she goes into the forest, and then she falls down something, and then into the water and tumbles, and she finds her way to the cottage of the 7 dwarfs. And she doesn't clean, she kind of just makes herself at home. She goes upstairs, lays in bed, And then we get to the seven dwarfs, and the hi-ho song, which I really like that. And my mom really liked it too. It was one of our favorite parts, because for me it just gave me nostalgia. It was difficult to hear at some points, because the music was a bit overpowering, but my mom and I were also old, so maybe that's just our ears that we couldn't hear it. And they added some extra stuff to the song, which was nice. And then they have glowing hands, not all the time, just when they're in the mines. They have glowing hands, and they touch the cave, and it lights up and shows where all the gems are. In the song, they explain it that it has a magic mark. They don't do anything else with that. It's just for that sequence, and I don't know why they added it, but it's there. And there's a lot of gems in the cave, too. Forget about the evil queen making everyone poor. If all those gems get out, it's going to cause high levels of inflation. Anyway, they sing their song, which is nice. They go back to the cottage. They see Snow White. They get scared, but then they decide to let her stay. Grumpy isn't happy about it, but they decide to let her stay the night. And I think that at that point, it cuts back to the evil queen. And she asks the magic mirror who's the fairest of them all, and the magic mirror informs her that Snow White is, and she's still alive. Now, in the original, the evil queen says that, no, I have Snow White's heart in a box. And the magic mirror tells her, no, that's a pig's heart. In this version, the 2025 version, the evil queen goes to open up the box because she told the huntsman to put Snow White's heart in there. She opens it up, and inside is an apple. He didn't even try to hide it. Was he just counting on the queen not looking in the box? Was he just planning to get caught? I don't know. But the huntsman gets arrested and thrown in the dungeon. The evil queen sings this song, All is Fair. Okay, I'm going to talk about the evil queen for just a second, because first of all, costumes, not bad. Wasn't a fan of the jewelry, though, because it looked like costume jewelry, really cheap and fake. But I wasn't a fan of her singing, and her dancing was kind of jerky and uncoordinated, and not in a cool, like, I'm losing it, I'm going crazy sort of way, just in a, I'm trying to dance, but I'm not as smooth as I should be sort of way, if that makes sense. And she also didn't have as much of a presence, if that makes sense. Like, she wasn't scary, she wasn't intimidating, at least to me, and she also wasn't entertaining. The Julia Roberts in Mirror Mirror, when she was evil queen, she wasn't really scary, but she wasn't supposed to be. She was supposed to be comedic, and she was entertaining, but this evil queen isn't really either, and at some points it just felt like I was watching an actress on a set saying lines. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but I wasn't impressed with that. So the next day, it's at the Seven Dwarfs' cottage. The Seven Dwarfs get into a fight, and during the tussle, a bowl of oatmeal or something lands on Dopey's head, and everyone just laughs at him, and he gets really sad and runs out. And Snow White talks to him. It's like, oh, do you ever want to talk? Do you ever try to talk? And I guess he's intimidated to do it. And she teaches him how to whistle, and he comes back inside and whistles, and everyone is amazed, because the other dwarfs, I guess, have never heard of whistling before, even though they're supposed to be like 200 years old or something in this version. Anyway, they start whistling, and Snow White kind of orders them around to clean up. She cleans a little bit, but most of the song for Whistle While You Work is her just kind of singing and dancing and kind of telling them what to do and giving them stuff to do. She does a little bit, but she's mostly dancing and bossing them around. They clean the cottage, and Snow White says, I have to go. I'm going to try to find the bandits who fight in my father's name, because maybe my father is still alive, maybe I can find him. So she goes into the woods to find the bandits. At this point, though, the evil queen has sent guards after Snow White, so the forest is full of guards that are looking for her. Fortunately for Snow White, or unfortunately, she runs into Jonathan, the bandit, and okay, first of all, none of us that went there, me, my mom, or my two friends, were a fan of his costume either. My friend said it looked like he just walked out of the Gap. He had a hoodie and looked like skinny jeans. It wasn't skinny jeans, but that's what it looked like. It reminded me of Robin Hood from the BBC Robin Hood series. But he's there, and he's acting very... He has an attitude, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think they're trying to do some playful banter, but it doesn't... I don't think it really works because it's not very witty. He and Snow White don't have a lot of chemistry, and also he's kind of hot and cold with his sarcasm sort of thing. Because he was a bit not snippy. He had a little bit of an edge to him, not even an edge. He was a little sarcastic at the beginning when he first met Snow White, but then she let him free, and of course he was grateful. And now she meets him again, and he's singing, oh yeah, there's a song, Princess Problems. He's singing about how he doesn't have time to deal with her princess problems. But you have no room to talk. You couldn't escape one of the easiest things to escape. You just had one rope and no one watching you. Anyway, I also don't really care for his singing very much. But he sings the song, and then we meet the 7 bandits in the forest, which are the 7 diverse people of the forest that were originally going to be a big part of the movie, I think. Now, not really. They might have 1 or 2 lines each. There's one of them, I think his name is Quig. He has about 7 lines. I didn't count them, but it's something like that. And at that point, the Queen's guards have found the bandits, and they're demanding to know where Snow White is. And Bandit Boy tells Snow White to run, so she runs away. Well, first of all, she doesn't want to run away. She says she wants to help fight with them, which you don't know how to fight. You've never shown us that you can even help, but okay, whatever. But she does run away, but not very far, because she's going to come back to help fight. And she does this by... She gets her forest friend creatures to get some clothes, and they do kind of a Sleeping Beauty type thing where she calls the guards like, "Hey, I'm over here," and they come over and they think that she's hiding behind the tree, and they go to stab her or whatever, or grab her, but it's just animals in the clothes, and then the birds like fly away. So now they don't know where she is. And Snow White circles back to the bandits, and by doing that, she has lost all of the guards, except one that still has managed to track her. I don't know how she lost all of them. I feel like they were right there, and they should easily be able to find her again. But whatever, she's lost most of them, but there's one, and he shoots a crossbow. He's aiming at Snow White, but then Bandit Boy kind of jumps in front, and he takes it to the shoulder, and then he falls down.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
And Snow White takes him to the 7 dwarfs because she thinks that the dwarf called Doc might be a doctor. He's not a doctor, but he's still able to fix him up. So now Bandit Boy is okay again. And once he's all fixed up, I think someone rose to give him a hug, and he's like, "Oh, careful." But after that, that's really the only time he shows that he's injured. He's pretty much miraculously healed now. Don't worry about the injury. And so they decide to have a party, and that's when we get the one song, the happy song, the silly song, I can't remember which one, but it's in the original movie, and they do 10 seconds of it. And Quig, I'm pretty sure that's his name, talks to Snow White, and she's like, "Oh, you have a crush on that one bandit." And he's like, "Oh, you have a crush on Bandit Boy." And she's like, No way, he only cares about himself." And Quig says, "What are you talking about? He took an arrow for you." And Snow White has the audacity to act confused, and I don't understand. She was right there when it happened. And granted, her back was turned, but he was she was her back was turned, but he was still right there. She should have felt him or seen him do something, and she should have known that the arrow was meant for her, but he stepped in the way of the arrow. Snow White is supposed to be naive. She's not supposed to be dumb, and I don't understand how she didn't make the connection that At this point we get to my favorite part, which is the love song, Hand Reaching Hand. I think that's what it's called. I've been listening to it on repeat since then because I really like it. Rachel Zegler has a really good voice.
She may be difficult, but boy, can she sing. Bravo!
Andrew Burnap, I'm not a fan of his voice, but when he sings with Rachel Zegler, it sounds really good. And it's a nice love song, and it makes me a little sad of what could have been. It could have been a good remake. They could have done a lot with it. I know they didn't really want to make it a love story.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024.
But I kind of wanted it to be a love story. Granted, the 7 dwarfs are important, but I really look for a cheesy romance in fairy tales, especially in Snow White. And this is as close as I was going to get for this one. Anyway, they sing the song, which sounds really good. Oh, and in the song, they have a line. It's something about if I'm sleeping. Hold on, I know it. It was something about if I'm sleeping, promise you'll wake me with a kiss or something like that. Which sounds a little clunky, but I'm guessing they put that in there to cover their bases so no one would complain that he kissed her without consent. And so that was a smart move on their part. And as I said, I like this song. I love this song. It should have just been this song. But they didn't want to do a romance for the movie. So anyway, they almost kiss, but then they don't. And then Bandit Boy and his bandits are like, we have to go. The guards are still searching for you. We have to leave for your protection. I think they're planning to lead the guards away from the dwarf's cottage. Snow White gives Jonathan, Bandit Boy, the necklace. I keep almost wanting to say the prince. He's not a prince. She gives Bandit Boy the necklace. It says fearless, fair, brave, and true. It's one that her father gave her. And he promises to come back in 2 days' time. And then this'll go somewhere. Oh, I forgot to mention, the whole reason Snow White was looking for the bandits in the first place was because they said that they fought in the name of her father, the king. So she thought they might know something about where the king is. They don't know anything, so that was a dead end for her. Anyway, the bandits go off, and then while Bandit Boy is trying to distract the guards, he accidentally falls into one of their traps. It's like one of those net things that you step on and the net picks you up. So he gets captured again. And my mom pointed out that if he's a good bandit, he probably should have a knife on him or something that would have helped him escape from the net or from the rope or from anything. But he doesn't do that. He gets captured, and they take him to the evil queen. And she's like, where's Snow White?
Where is Snow White?
Snow who? Who are you?
Snow White.
Snow who? No way!
He's like, I don't know where she is, but then the evil queen sees the necklace, so she knows that he's lying. And then so she throws him in the dungeon with the huntsman. Bandit Boy is trying to escape. He's pulling on the chain, because he's got a chain on his hand, and it's attached to a wall, and he's pulling, but nothing's happening because it's a chain attached to a wall. It's supposed to be difficult to escape. And so then the evil queen gets a potion, turns into an evil hag, and then goes to the cottage where she finds Snow White. And I know that they did this because it's what happened in the original movie, but it doesn't make sense or as much sense for her to do it this way in this movie. She could have just sent the guards there if she knows where Snow White is, and they could have just killed her easily then. In the original, I think it kind of makes sense that she has to do it herself, because she already tried to get someone to kill Snow White, the huntsman, and he didn't do it. So maybe she assumed that no one else would do it. But in this one, the guards, they really are after Snow White. And they really were willing to kill her, I think, but she wants to do it herself. She tells Snow White that Jonathan was captured because she shows the necklace. And then she gives Snow White an apple, saying, "Oh, it's a gift, just like your father used to give apples or make apple pies for everyone. This is for you." Snow White takes a bite, and it's not really dramatic when she takes a bite. It's just kind of like that. The evil queen reveals herself, and then she mentions that her father is dead. She killed her father, so that's the end of that. And I guess we're just supposed to believe that the evil queen is telling the truth, and she doesn't say how she killed the king, but if you were hoping that that was going to go somewhere, it didn't. It was a red herring. So now Snow White, she's dead, presumably, although there is an antidote, which is true love's kiss, which I don't know why the evil queen didn't kill Bandit Boy. She let him live. I mean, he's in the dungeon, but she could have just killed him. But she likes having loose ends, I guess. And so Snow White is dead. 7 dwarfs put her in a glass casket. And then we cut back to Bandit Boy, who is still in the dungeon. He's still pulling on the chain. And you might be wondering, or at least I was wondering, where are the other bandits? Are they trying to help Jonathan escape? Are they trying to break in? Did they go back to check on Snow White? I don't know. I think the movie just kind of forgot about them, kind of like how Daenerys forgot about the Iron Fleet. So don't worry about it. He's pulling on the chain, and the huntsman's like, you're never going to do it. You've been pulling on that every day. And then Bandit Boy says, I know, but Snow White, she gave me hope. She taught me about kindness again, or whatever. So then, Jonathan, the Bandit Boy, and the huntsman pull on the chain together, and that's how they escape. They just pull, and it breaks off from the wall, and then there's a skeleton in there. So Bandit Boy takes one of the bones of the skeleton and picks the lock really easily, in seconds. He is very competent when the plot needs him to be. Every other time, he's quite terrible. But Bandit Boy and the huntsman escape that way. And I thought it would be really cool if they had done the original plan from like the 1930s. Because originally they had planned for the prince to be captured in the dungeon. And when he escapes, the evil queen brings to life these skeletons that he has to fight. They didn't do that because of budgetary restrictions, I think, and it would have been a lot to animate, and they were already pretty over budget. But I thought that would have been cool to see, but they didn't do that. They didn't ask for my opinion. So Bandit Boy runs and finds Snow White, and he kisses her, and she wakes up.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
And I don't know if I can explain that the things in this movie just kind of happen. In the original, it's such a dramatic moment when Snow White is presumably dead. It lingers a little bit longer on the reaction of the dwarfs and the animals, and then when the prince finds her, he sings the song. It's kind of sad and melancholic, and then the moment when he kisses her, and she wakes up, and everyone is just so happy. I can't explain the feeling. It's like a goosebumps feeling that it can give me. And this one, it just kind of happens. But Snow White wakes up, and she's like, my father's dead, he's not coming back, so now I need to be the leader that my father wanted me to be. and we need to take back the kingdom. So, I didn't say this, but at the beginning, it said that the evil queen had made the farmers and the villagers into soldiers and had them do her bidding. It didn't say anything about her using magic to compel them, so I don't know how she did this, but this is going to be important. So anyway, Snow White decides to take back the kingdom, which is surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, very easy to do. She walks to the village. No, she doesn't walk to the village, but when she gets to the village, she walks in and she just stands there and stares at the villagers. And then they stare at her, and her standing there staring at them inspires them to start singing. And she starts walking forward, and they all gather behind her, still singing. And I guess they're inspired now to take back the kingdom. And they go to the castle at the front gate. And the queen could have just killed Snow White there. She could have ordered the guards to kill her. But she decides, no, I'm going to come down and talk to her. And she gives the whole speech again. She does that little magic trick with the rose and all. And she gives Snow White a dagger and says, you go ahead and kill me. Snow White, she can't kill her. So she's like, fine, then the guards are going to kill you. And she orders the guards to kill her. And Snow White gets out of this. She looks at one of the soldiers or the guards, and she says, William, I remember you. You had cherry trees, and when the cherries were ripe, you invited the villagers to come and pick them. And, Andrew, you were a baker. You and your father would bake bread and share it with the people. Do you remember the good times that we had? And then the soldiers think, and they say, yeah, I do remember the good times. Then another one says, I remember the good times too. And the other one says, I remember the good times too. And then, because they remembered the good times, they decide they're not going to kill Snow White. They're not going to work for the evil queen anymore. And I don't know why. It's like they never thought of rebelling before Snow White suggested it. They knew things were bad, and it doesn't say anything about the evil queen using magic to make them forget. That would have maybe made sense, but it didn't say that they did that, and I don't think she did, because the only magic we've seen, I mean, she has a magic mirror, and she has potions, but the only magic we've seen is, like, the party tricks. And so, yeah, they just decide, we're not going to obey the evil queen now, we're just going to follow Snow White. And the evil queen, she gets mad and she gets a dagger and she's going to kill Snow White, who is just standing there. She should back up or run, but she's just standing there. And then one of the bandits, Quig, shoots the dagger out of her hand. And, oh, fun fact. In the description of this movie, you'll see that something about Snow White and the 7 dwarfs team up to take back Snow White's kingdom. Well, this is what the dwarfs do to help with that. The evil queen, after the dagger has been hit out of her hand, she looks around, she sees everyone is against her, and she looks back, and she sees the 7 dwarfs there, and they're just kind of like... And that's their contribution. They're just standing behind the evil queen, looking kind of grumpy or mildly annoyed. And they don't even do nothing. They do less than nothing, because I'm pretty sure they were added in after. Like, this was a reshoot after they had shot that scene already. And they just kind of digitally added the 7 dwarfs in. Because the evil queen, I think seconds later, she goes, "No, no!" And then she runs back into the castle, presumably past where the 7 dwarfs were. Do they try to fight her? Does she have to run around them? I don't know. She just runs through them, probably, because they're not actually there. So she runs into the castle. Snow White foolishly runs after her, all by herself. And then the evil queen talks to the mirror, who says that Snow White is more beautiful because her beauty also comes from within, which is probably the only way to explain why she's more beautiful. She's very pretty. She's not as pretty as Gal Gadot. And so Evil Queen breaks the mirror, but then the mirror shatters and she becomes made of glass, and then she gets sucked into the mirror. And Snow White is just kind of standing there looking. And then Snow White steps out and everyone goes, okay, you're the leader now. And so they have an all-white party like they did at the end of Beauty and the Beast. And they sing the song again about the good times. And, okay, again with the costumes. First of all, Snow White's costume for most of this, it really, I didn't care for it. It felt like a party costume. And then for this one, for the all-white party, it's the same thing, but white. Same with Bandit Boy. He's wearing his hoodie and his skinny jeans, but now it's all white. It's not important to the plot. It's just a pet peeve. And then, yeah, that's it, I think. I don't remember if there's a wedding or anything at the end. I just remember the song and then the disappointment that I had wasted money and time. In the original, the prince is in there for maybe about 2 minutes. Not a very long time, but it still felt romantic. In this one, not the prince, Bandit Boy is in there for a lot longer, and he has more interactions with Snow White, which I like the idea of that, but it didn't feel as romantic as the original did. As I said, I really like that one song, but that was pretty much it. So basically, it was just kind of boring, wasn't as good as the original, and things just kind of happened, didn't always make sense. It really felt like they just cut and pasted certain things between the original shooting and then the reshoots and tried to mesh it together. And also, they could have just used people with dwarfism for the 7 dwarfs. I don't know why they went the CGI route for that. It probably cost them a lot of money when if they were going to do reshoots, they could have just done reshoots with real actors. It could have been a better connection between Snow White and the dwarfs that way. I will say one of the voice actors, he is someone with dwarfism. I think everyone else, though, is over 4 feet. Oh, and I forgot, at the end, Dopey speaks. And he's been the one narrating it the whole time. But I think I covered everything else. All the important stuff, I think. The songs were good. You can just listen to the songs. You don't have to watch the movie. I think there might be some people who find it entertaining, but I also think that it would be better to just wait until it comes out on DVD or Disney Plus and then watch it that way. I don't think it's really worth going to the movie theaters to see it, but some people probably do like it. But for me, it was nah. But anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch if you've made it this far or however far you made it. And yeah, that's it. Bye.